Everybody, this is not an intro. We've fooled them before. Yeah. Classic intro.
That's what Intro Daniel would say.
Welcome to the Spider-Verse. Can you really tell if it's me or not?
Okay, everybody, drop your guard.
Everybody be really vulnerable right now. I've got something to say. Before the episode starts, we want to solicit something. We want to proposition something.
We want to beg you.
In a few months, we're going to be doing a sort of freeform, looser episode based on a listener question that we got. And we want to have people that listen to us, I guess you would call them fans.
No, I wouldn't. Pedestrians?
I wouldn't, and neither would they. The question we want you to send in your answer to so we can read them on the episode and discuss that as well as our answers to the question. First, I should say the listener who submitted this is Jared Kolka. So the question is, what do you like most about Angelinos? And also, what should someone not from here be aware of to make their stay as agreeable as possible? So that's the question we're going to tackle. We want to hear your answers, and you're going to want to hear our answers because I can't wait to give it in about few months time from now. We'll be asking for the next few months, so send them in.
And you'll be famous too. And if the answer is good enough, you'll get your own podcast one day.
Yeah, send us in those questions. And now, the real intro.
Oh, God. That's what Intro Daniel would be saying too. This is the intro.
This is like Inception. You have to everybody spin your tops, see if this is an intro or not. Okay, here's the intro. That was the intro. Here it is. Bye. I'm sorry, everybody, but it's official. All ice cream in the city has melted.
Fascist!
I'm not a fascist. It's a heat wave.
Commie?
Socially, yes, but financially, no. This is my ice cream store, and you all have to leave.
Right before we burned Baskin-Robbins to the ground, they said the last pint of ice cream in the city was here, and we'd all like a free sample. Before we burn you to the ground.
Yes, there is one flavor that didn't melt, but you're not going to like it.
It's ice cream. It will like it.
No, I don't.
Get to scooping, pal. We have 4 more ice cream stores to burn down before this heat wave breaks, and all these crimes we've been committing become illegal again.
You won't like what it is.
I don't care what it is. Even if it's Rocky Road, I'll take it. What's the flavor?
It's butter pecan!
So... you're out of Rocky Road.
No, it's not popular, but it's here, and it's staying solid out of pure spite.
All you have is the worst flavor of ice cream?
It's not the worst. It's an acquired taste.
That's code for it's the worst.
How could it be the worst? It's nuts and cold butter for dessert.
If I wanted to eat a bunch of nuts and butter, I'd stick my face in my grandma's pocket.
Now, come on. It's not that bad. It's not like it's vegan ice cream or anything, right?
Vegan ice cream isn't on trial here. It's on fire. Nobody likes butter pecan.
Oh, I like butter pecan.
Heat wave.
Just because an ice cream isn't popular doesn't mean it's not tasty. And just because an ice cream looks like roadkill eggnog doesn't mean it's not tasty. And just because an ice cream's covered in 30 years of freezer burn doesn't mean it's not tasty.
Then taste it.
Taste it? I mean, I'd love to, only I'm afraid I'd like it too much, and then there wouldn't be any left for my new friends.
We're not your friend! The mob has spoken. Grab a spoon and force feed the ice cream to him airplane style. Oh, you're a big boy, huh?
I would like to apologize to all of you, my new friends.
Nope.
To myself for taking part in this charade, and most of all, to this tub of ice cream. Butter pecan, you're gross. Quite frankly, you taste like caca. What do you have to say for yourself? You're as cold as ice, and not in a good way. How could you say that? I told you that in confidence. Where do you get off? In front of all my friends. Oh yeah? Well, I just have one thing to say to you, Butter Pecan. Ya mama.
We came here to do 2 things. To eat ice cream and to burn an innocent man's business to the ground. But you taught me something today, not friend. You taught me that some people are on a rocky road to an even rockier bottom. You make me sick. Come on, everyone. Let's just get frozen yogurt instead.
I didn't mean it. Please forgive me. I'm so sorry we had to go through that. I had to say what I said to keep you safe and make sure you continue a long life in the back of the freezer, never being eaten, never being touched, except by me. I can't believe what I've done. Please, Butter Pecan, take me back.
I knew you'd come crawling back to me, you weak slut. Get this goddamn spoon out of me. That wasn't the intro.
This is the intro. Have you
Told
ever
you.
wondered what ice cream would be like? What was the intro this time? Hello, Meeklings.
Hi.
We haven't said that in a while.
We haven't. People have addressed themselves as that, which is neat. You can't say it publicly. It's a secret club. A lot of people don't know that. Thanks for downloading this secret podcast.
Yeah. Judging by the numbers, it certainly must be a secret. Thanks for everybody for blowing our cover. We didn't want anyone to download this. And we mostly got that wish.
Speaking of secret fans, we had a really good time at Podcast Party, which we were on thanks to the Podcast Party guys.
The podcast party that we were on.
Thank you.
The live show, the live recording of said podcast party.
Your tone and the amount you're talking and the speed you're talking sounds like a lie, like you're stalling.
No, this was
and another thing about the podcast.
There was a podcast party, and I was there. We were there. You were there. We were all there. We all saw me there. I wasn't in that alley.
No, not at all. No, never. And I don't even know what an alley is. What is that? An ale? Did he say ale? No.
My hand can't even fit around a baseball bat, let alone crack that lady's skull. Come on, podcast party. For the record, it's called Podcast Party. We were on an episode at the Pack Theater, and several of our fans came, and we really appreciated that.
Yeah, it was really nice for everyone to come out. Please don't be afraid to say hi next time. We also had the guys from Martini Lounge, Jonathan Sergey Car, which was really
another podcast.
Another podcast. And also, if you get a chance, go see that show live because it's a really good sampler platter for other podcasts out there.
Because that episode should be out by the time this comes out. It should be on iTunes. We're also going to release our video of it on our YouTube channel, so you should watch that and also download other episodes. Because it's different. The concept of the show is like 3 or 4 different podcasts doing a 15-minute version of their podcast on the podcast party.
Yeah.
It was a challenge to take an older story and make it new again and fudge the facts. So now it's a new story. But yeah, it was a fun challenge to not only adapt it, because we've done some live things, but not only to adapt it to the live version, but also to trim it down to the 15-minute version, which is something we've never been able to do before.
It's also something that people have been begging us to do since we started. So it's very nice to know that we are capable of it, and now we're just plain refusing to do it.
I don't negotiate with beggars, okay?
Alms for the poor.
No negotiations. Listen to that. It was a lot of fun, and thanks again for having us on, podcast boys. Shouty Nair. Shaka Khan.
Thank you for having us, Shaka Khan.
Thank you, Shaka Khan. That's one thing we did in the past month. Greg, what else? Greg, come on. Tell me what you did in the last month, Greg.
Okay, here we go. Guess what? I wrote this down. I'm like, yeah, I did this within the last 4 weeks. I think I did it.
Crack that lady's skull in with a baseball bat?
Help bury her. Okay, I can't listen. I know when you're going to fly off the handle and kill somebody. I don't know, but I was there and you're my pal. And I'm going to help you bury a lady.
Always there to clean up the mess.
Exactly. I'm Mr. Wolf.
You're Norman Bates to me, Mother Bates. We're the same person. Spoiler.
You ruined it. It's okay. We're just going to play the 15 minutes at the end where the guy just explains it.
Yes and no. You see, he's a pervert.
Yeah, we understand how it works. Every time he killed, he was his mother. I know!
But how could a man also be his mother? Well, he wasn't really his mother, but he was his mother.
Every time he wears his mom's cardigan, he wants to kill. I get it, dude. Just end up. Okay, whatever. Anyways, me and my lovely girlfriend, we went to the 3D Space Museum, which is in Echo Park.
But wait a minute. It's not 3D space. It's just a 3D space.
It's a 3D space.
It's a podcast party.
Podcast party.
It's a 3D space.
Yeah, you get it.
What is it? Because you were kind of telling me about this, and I don't know what you're talking about.
I called it a museum. I don't know if he actually collects old artifacts. Right now, what he has is viewfinders, and it's like a history of viewfinders. If you don't know what a viewfinder is, it was a thing when I was growing up. It's like almost like a That's it. Yeah.
Daffy Duck.
Kaleidoscope binoculars, and you put circular film in it, and you click on it, and it's a different image each time. And he has like all these different things on display, including like an original one of the first ones that you put the nickel in, and it would show you something on the screen through binoculars. They're not binoculars, but you know what I mean.
Naked lady.
Do you want to just keep riffing while I talk?
This isn't a riff. Riff is very generous.
What did you do?
No, I want to hear more about this.
You sure?
I do want to hear more about this because I don't quite understand what this place is.
That's the sound of me loading a shotgun
to kill that lady in the alley.
We're gonna unbury her, shoot her, rebury her.
But officer, we thought she was a vampire the first time we killed her. Oops. Tell me about this place.
It's a little space. Okay, so there's a building on Sunset and Alvarado, and it's a little space dedicated to 3D art, I guess, and 3D devices. So it has like a bunch of viewfinders. Last time I was there, it's a very small space. It's tucked behind everything. And Eric Curlin is the guy, I guess, curating it or running the place. And it's very interesting.
But how many 3D art things you've got like...
Right now, it's just viewfinders as far as I can tell. I don't think the viewfinders were permanent. I think that it sounded like he was constantly switching 3D things. Like,
okay.
I don't know if it has regular hours or not, so you'd have to contact him. It's eric.curlin@3 koreatown-dspace.org.
The next exhibit is pop-ups. 3D.
Third dimension.
Then the one after that is going to be the third Mighty Ducks movie. It's a very loose genre of museum. Well, this is something I did in the last month.
Yeah.
I've gotten more into it. It's a part of town I never really liked just because of the parking situation.
Oh, hot topic here.
It's the Hot Topic district. But Koreatown, but the restaurants in Koreatown.
Okay.
It's a nightmare trying to find parking.
It is, yeah.
Pretty much any time of the year.
Yeah, any time of the day, any time of the year.
But the restaurants, because I had been to some, but recently I went to Hai Jang Chon Barbecue, the Korean,
Okay.
obviously Korean barbecue, and it was really good. And then actually earlier today we were at Street Food of Seoul. But there's just so many different
That's a really great area, not to park, but like
for everybody but a car.
I always say that Los Feliz is what people think of when they think of old Hollywood, but also Koreatown has a lot of really old buildings, and they just pack it's like a pack everything in.
Yeah, when we were walking around, I kind of felt like, oh, this is a city.
Yeah, this is a city.
This is
Yeah.
actually a city. Specifically, I'm talking about just the food scene, because there's so many different types of Korean food. Like there's whole restaurants dedicated to one dish, and there's so many different things you can try, and they're all quite good. Like
Yeah.
everything I've had has been really good, and there's so many different things that I can't pronounce, and I'm too
I just
scared
walk
to
in
order.
randomly and hope that it's a restaurant and that they serve food and take money. You and I went out we meant to go to one place and we
Yeah.
ended up going to like two other places because like you can do that there because it's so packed in. You're going
Yeah.
to find something you like.
And it's also very, like, every restaurant is very popular.
Yeah.
I don't know how every restaurant has a 45-minute wait, but it does.
Yeah, I feel like everyone's trying to find that one karaoke bar they were at 4 years ago when they had too much to drink, and they're just stopping at every restaurant along the way. So it always feels like
And nobody can read
perpetually-
Korean, and you just think every place is the place you went to, which is racist. There's a lot going on there. It's a pretty interesting place.
Yeah.
And it's, go there before it changes, because who knows how long that's going to last. Even today, walking around, there's like all these, like you said, really old buildings with these really nice, what not framework, but what would you call it? Like the stuff out front.
I call them decorative crap. Yeah, decorative crap.
They were just turning it into like, this is going to be a gym,
Yeah,
or just
exactly.
something not Korean or that interesting. So before that happens, you should
You
definitely
should-
go there.
Anything in LA, you should probably take a picture of now because
Take a picture
2
because it will
years-
last longer.
Yeah,
Take the metro also because it
Yeah.
will take longer.
yeah. Parking, it's almost excruciatingly painful there.
The last couple times I actually got kind of lucky, but
Yeah.
that was a fluke. Like I've driven around that area for like 30 minutes trying to find a
Yeah.
parking spot.
Like when we used to go do Karma Lounge, we'd have to park full on the other side of Vermont.
Yeah, we had
By the public storage that was a speakeasy, and then walk over.
we had to park in Silver Lake, which is legally a better area to park than Koreatown. Yeah, it was horrible trying to get to Karma
Yeah.
Lounge, and it was also horrible being in Karma Lounge. That's what we've done in the past month. Let's get to this month. It's
Augie.
Augie. By the time you're listening to this, I'm sure it's the most miserable temperature you've ever experienced
We're
in your
about
life.
4 days into it right now. Yeah.
It's getting bad, and I'm sure it's only going to get worse. But yeah, so we thought we'd do something to cool you down a little bit. We're going to be talking about iced cream.
The cream of the crops.
The cream of the cows.
I call it cream of the crops because I'm lactose intolerant and I can't have ice cream. So this research was extra painful to me. Me and 65% of the population of Earth who cannot digest.
Is that really the number?
Yep.
That's sad.
Yeah.
That's
it's
sad for you losers.
Oh, my girlfriend had ice cream recently and she's like, I feel sick. I'm like, yeah, I think you're turning lactose intolerant. It happens like it's just like onset.
You grow into it.
You grow into it.
It's
and
adult onset lactose intolerance. Oh, you got type 2.
You can't even look at milk.
You can't even pet a cow without getting sick. I mean, you've eaten ice cream in front of me since you've discovered you're lactose intolerant.
Near my house.
Near my house or
Running-
some sort of open field that no one can find me.
I can have a little bit, but like I can't have obviously shakes. I can't have too much mozzarella. I can't have
My
ice
favorite
cream.
type of
Yeah.
ice cream, mozzarella. Look, the 35%ers, we all love talking about this. So we're going to talk about a few of the ice cream
Yes.
places that you probably know from LA, but also some you maybe not know that it started in LA. So take us there, Sketch.
Oh boy, here we go. Okay.
Sentence 1. I have diarrhea from researching this.
researching this. I'll be talking about Foster's Freeze.
Okay.
Which is one of my favorite establishments.
Can we also say off the bat, I don't think I've ever eaten at a Foster's Freeze.
Really?
Because there's not too many, and
No.
I don't know, I just never went to one for some reason.
that's odd.
Yeah, it is kind of weird.
The ice
Aren't
cream's
they?
really good there. The soft serves are really
I think is it soft serve?
yeah, it's soft serve.
Because I'm not a fan of soft serve. That might be why I never went
why
there.
why am I going to do the research? You're not going to
Well, we're talking about ice cream, not.
What's soft serve though?
I mean,
Ice cream.
it's not really ice cream. It's more just sort of disappointment, tangible.
it looks cool.
Tangible disappointment. It does look cool. I'll
It's
give it that.
softer and it makes me poo faster.
It's got everything I want out of dairy. It goes through me really fast and makes me really sick.
It's as if I ate diarrhea.
It's too soft for me. I think that's my problem.
Diarrhea?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's everyone's complaint with it, but it doesn't feel substantial enough to me. Like, I feel like I could just go to McDonald's and kind of get the same sort of experience. I've never had a soft serve that blew me away. Like, it all kind of tastes the same, which is okay.
You're one of those people that thinks ice cream is a full meal and it should be filling.
I'm one of those people that eats ice cream after a full meal when I'm already filled.
It's ice cream. It's just a treat.
It's not calories because I like it.
Not much is known about George Foster other than he proudly served from WW2, whichever one that was, and he came back ready to get into business, any business. He was called in some articles an entrepreneur, and I suppose that's true. In 1946, George Foster decides to go into the ice cream game. He is said to be the first to bring soft serve to the West, but he was by no means the inventor of soft serve. Do you know the story of soft serve?
No, I hate that stuff. Why would I want to know?
Why would I look into it? First, to clarify the difference between soft serve and regular ice cream, because if you ask me, soft serve is just curly and it comes out of a machine looking like poop, but not according to science. There are two main differences between soft serve and regular ice cream. Soft serve has less milk fat, like 3 to 6% milk fat, while ice cream has 10 to 18%.
That's what people like about it. Like, a sign of good ice cream is the milk fat or whatever, the butter fat or whatever it is. So when you're taking it away, all you're getting is this is just like water. This is cold cream.
The other thing makes no sense to me, but it might to you. Soft serve has a higher air content. When air is added to soft serve, air is added to the ice cream.
This makes a lot of sense to me. Finish that sentence and then I'll tell you how I feel about air.
I'll tell you how I feel about you getting air, acting like it's a privilege. When air is added to soft serve ice cream as it is frozen, it also affects the taste and the texture. So the taste and texture is different because of the air.
Right. So to speak about another type of ice cream, gelato, if it's like puffed up, like fluffed up, that's not good gelato. Like, you want it to be sort of like dense and sort of down because that's just pure, unrefined. That's the hard stuff.
I could feel the milk film in the back of my throat when I drink milk.
You shouldn't be drinking milk. That's your problem.
I'm not drinking milk. I'm just saying you're giving me the effect just to talking about dense cream. Dense cream.
The butter fat.
I gotta go to the bathroom. Read this nonsense for me. I gotta go to the bathroom.
Read all these facts I have about aeration.
So the melty effect of soft serve is due to the air content, which is controlled by the soft serve machine, if I read that correctly. The machine gives it air just before it pours out and looking like poop. So the soft serve was initially invented by Tom Carvel of Carvel's Ice Cream in New York. Yeah. It was invented when his ice cream truck broke down on a hot summer day in 1934, and the melting ice cream was a sudden accidental hit.
You're just proving my point that defective dying ice cream is soft serve.
I want that, but melty.
That's also interesting because I always kind of suspected that soft serve was more of an East Coast thing because my parents love soft serve and I don't like it. And whenever you go to New York, like, it's always like, this is the best ice cream place. This is just a soft serve cone.
So 2 years later in Illinois, Dairy Queen made their own soft serve machine and started selling that out of a brick and mortar store in 1940. So now we cut back to George Foster in 1946, seeking success from sweets. He purchased the development rights for the whole state of California from the Dairy Queen, which meant he can open his own Dairy Queens in California. His intentions was, like I just said, to open Dairy Queens across the state. But there was an issue. It was either one of the two things, and I read both of them. Either he learned that the dairy industry had enacted strict laws controlling the word dairy, so he couldn't call it Dairy Queen, or the name Dairy Queen was already being used in another fashion in California.
Dairy Duke.
Dairy Princess. Heir to the throne.
Dairy next in line for royal lineage.
Dairy Harry.
You feeling aerated, punk?
So anyways, he couldn't call his new franchise that he just paid money for Dairy Queen. So what are you going to do? But either way, he would be selling ice cream out of a place that looked and felt suspiciously like a Dairy Queen, but had a different name. It seems like it seems like it would have hindered his ability to gain.
Is a dilly bar? No, it's a Billy bar.
It seems like it would have hindered his ability to gain customers based on brand recognition, but it also seemed like it would work in his favor having his name be the company name. So he changed the name from Dairy Queen to Foster's Old Fashioned Freeze.
To Foster's the new king. I think that's what kind of confused me about it, why I thought it was always just kind of like slushy sort of things, because the word freeze to me brings certain connotations.
Yeah, a freeze is a completely different thing. I think it's just like a colder smoothie.
Yeah. They put too much ice in the smoothie.
The original name was Foster's Old Fashioned Freeze. It later became known as Foster Freeze. My family and I for years have called it Frosty Freeze. Not Foster's, not Frosty Freeze, Frosty Freeze.
Wait a minute, so it's called not Foster's, just Foster Freeze?
Foster Freeze. He later lost the apostrophe S.
He lost it to Dairy's Queen.
Somebody else jumped on it. The first location opened up in Inglewood on La Brea Avenue near 94th Street, 999 South La Brea Avenue. That location is still there, but I believe the structure has completely changed.
You were there recently.
Yeah, I was out there, so I stopped by. And I thought, man, this place is going to be great. And I thought, the one by my house is better. It's still there, though. The original menu had items like the soft serve, you had malts and shakes, sundaes, orange freezes, root beer floats, and slowly over the next couple of years...
You did freezes, orange freezes.
slowly over the next couple of years, the menu expands from frozen treats to foods, and Foster starts serving Frozen foods. I guess I have a TV dinner in here I can make. Do you like Salisbury steak? Do you like kind of corn?
Do you like a brownie that was covered in plastic? Is that what you like?
Leave the film on it. So yeah, after that, they start serving burgers and fries, and it becomes like a legitimate Southern California hamburger
So it
stand.
just became Dairy Queen.
Pretty much, yeah. And it becomes like fully realized with the company's Googie style architecture, which featured angled sky blue roofs, beautiful neon signage, and walk-up windows. So it was like quintessential 50s, 60s California kind of thing. They were becoming popular, and before the end of 1950, Foster had opened up 360 locations statewide. All of those 360 locations used a soft serve machine mix from a company called Compton Dairy, which I sadly couldn't find too much about, but I did find an article from 1927 saying that Compton was the leading dairy section of the country, which I find interesting.
Those Compton cows. Straight out of Compton's udders.
Anyways,
that's what he used to say on milk cartons. Straight out of Compton's.
This milk is straight out of Compton.
Nitrates with attitude.
Anyways, by 1951, Foster buys out of the soft serve game and sells his franchise for $1 million. Back then was $1 million.
$1 million has always been worth $1 million.
That's a set exchange. He sold it to the Meyenberg Milk Products Company, thus ending a big account for Compton Dairy. The franchise has had many owners over time from all different walks of life, and over the years, the number of locations has dwindled down to 81, with real estate costs in California being the main aspect to blame, as well as the fast food and ice cream company competition throughout Southern California.
Yeah, there's not too many of that, like I was saying.
And there's, I can name 5, including the original one.
I just kind of pass them randomly, and it never seems like they're open.
A hamburger stand is neat, but it's not a drive-through in Car Central, and that really would keep you alive. It kind of matters. It's hard to keep up with McDonald's and Dairy Queen when you're a Foster's Freeze, you know?
Classic saying. It's hard to keep up with Dairy Queen and McDonald's when you're just a Foster Freeze.
I think that John F. Kennedy said that.
That's my John F. Kennedy.
Pretty good. His last words. Luckily, in 1994,
everybody, get a load of this. Hooah!
Dealey Plaza, I'd like your attention for a moment. Luckily, in 1994, an agreement was signed with the El Pollo Loco chain to serve up Foster's Freeze soft serve ice cream and other of its products at their locations, which added more than 160 additional locations where the company's products are sold. So
it's a parasite.
It's a
it's a parasite that chicken gets.
There's a sense of nostalgia around Foster's Freeze for SoCal people, and I'm one of those people. You know, I really have like idyllic memories of Foster's Freeze. My Aunt Sue used to live in Atwater.
Frosty Freeze?
Yeah, Foster's Freeze. My Aunt Sue used to live in Atwater, and us kids on summer vacation, we'd all walk over. She'd take like 6 kids to Foster's Freeze, and that's the same Foster's Freeze that's in both Pulp Fiction with Butch sees Marcellus Wallace across the street, and he hits him. Foster Freeze is in the background.
You saw that happen.
That's my Foster Freeze. The Glendale location on Grandview and Glen Oaks just closed recently. That was one of the first places I drove to when I started driving on my own. There's so many posts and articles in small town like newspapers and blogs that report how sad people are when their local Foster's close. There's articles and posts written about how heroes will step up and save a Foster's from demolition. Many of the original 40s locations still stand in Los Angeles area. There's like Burbank, Atwater, Eagle Rock has one, but a lot of them are in the South Bay. You know, there's like Carson, Torrance, Wilmington, Hawthorne.
Yeah,
a lot
it feels
of them,
like a South Bay thing.
Yeah, it has like a beach sensibility to it.
Yeah, it does.
Foster's Freeze has its corporate headquarters in Rancho Cucamonga, so it still is a southern...
It's the perfect name for a ice cream place to have headquarters.
Now for a bit of Southern California lore that needs to be addressed. It's 1964, and the Beach Boys have a hit, Fun, 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 which was a true account of a girl getting her dad's T-bird taken away after meeting Dennis Wilson, the handsomest Beach Boy, and also the only one that surfed. The opening line is, well, she got her daddy's car, and she cruised through the hamburger stand now. That hamburger stand has long supposed to be a Foster's Freeze, the one in Hawthorne, although A&W Root Beer is containing that.
Oh, come on.
That's them.
No.
A&W, come on. You're more of a Jan and Dean type.
You knockoff wannabe Jan and Dean loser.
Foster's has...
Glad I got that off my chest.
So on top of the delicious soft serve, Foster's has a delicious burger menu as well.
I missed a word. How did you refer to it?
Foster's has a delicious burger menu. My favorite is the Big Boss, which has onion rings in the burger. There's great hot dogs.
What do they call it in France? We're talking about Pulp Fiction, right?
It's a Big Boss. It's a communist country, so they don't have bosses there.
France is a communist. It's the boss that nobody respects because they're all socialists.
Nobody works over there. There's hot dogs, there's chili, mozzarella sticks, pastrami, burritos at some locations. There's patty melts. They have their soft serves, like I said. They have them dipped in vanilla and chocolate.
Okay, that
delicious.
I will give you. That
Whoa.
A soft serve, if it's dipped in a hard shell sort of thing, that is good.
Can you kiss the ring and say it? Thank you.
Delicious.
I dipped it. They have freezes, which come in banana berry, mocha, and root beer. They have sundaes and milkshakes and parfaits and twisters.
What's a twister? What's a twister?
Oh, it's a twister. I think that's the one where they turn it upside down. Like they serve it to you upside down.
That's
or
a
something.
Blizzard.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
From
It's
a company they're not
Dairy
allowed to
Queen.
be associated. Yeah, that's what they did. They just stole it since they stole everything else from Dairy Queen.
Hey.
By the way, when I said, what's a twister, I was expecting you to say this is a twister and twist my nipples.
Oh, that's funny.
Please do it.
I brought the clothespins. Please do it.
The gag's already in my mouth. Please do it, Greg. I beg you. What's a twister?
Yeah, that's it.
You
That's
sold
awesome.
me on it. I really like to go to one.
Let's
even
go
though
right
it's okay.
Let's go right now.
All right, bye.
I'll eat it for you, and you can watch my body just turn into mashed potatoes.
I'm going to get into my first one, which probably is the biggest one. It's certainly the biggest one. I mean, it's certainly better than yours. This actually isn't a place I like that much, but it's definitely the biggest contribution LA has probably made to the world.
Whoa.
I scream. You scream. We all scream. For Baskin-Robbins.
Oh my golly gosh.
Started
golly.
right
You mean Scoops
here.
Ahoy? Where's Scoops Troop? Go ahead.
They started right here in Los Angeles. I had no idea.
Me neither.
But now I do. And now I'm going to tell you as if I've known my whole life. This ice cream scoop of a story starts with a man with the unfortunate name for a Los Angeles history podcast, Irvine Robbins.
Whoa.
He was born December 6th, the day before Pearl Harbor. 1917, though, in Winnipeg, Canada.
He could have warned us.
So he was born to Polish and Russian immigrants Arnie and Goldie Chmelnitsky Robbins. That was their name. I don't know where the Robbins came from. But anyway, little Irvine himself.
Nests. Eggs. Go ahead.
Did a bee get them pregnant? Is that as far as I'm aware? Little Irvine became an immigrant himself when his family moved to Tacoma, Washington when he was 5 years old, where his dad opened up the Olympic Dairy Store. A nightmare for you.
Yeah.
Right next door to the Olympic hole in the ground. When he was a teenager, Irvine himself got a job at the dairy making deliveries and sweeping the floor, but eventually they trusted him enough to let him sell the ice cream that they had in the shop.
Let me try to think of a perfect analogy, but this is a really bad one. Sometimes serial killers would use kids to lure other kids. That's what they did. They're like, hey, I need you to go out there and just trick kids into eating ice cream.
I'm just like you. Come on back in this dairy. And that's how he became the Baskin-Robbins killer. Put the lotion in the basket.
Baskin-Robbins life. Because I'm robbing people's lives.
At this point, not too many people were buying ice cream from this store, from his dad's store. Not in general, but from his dad's store. But he realized that if he just marketed the ice cream in a different way, more people would buy it. So what he did was he gave the dishes zippier, more exciting names. Whereas dad was marketing, come get your 3 scoops of ice cream, a slice of banana, and 2 kinds of toppings. Irvine renamed it to come get your super banana treat. And people bought it. They were like, oh my God, I gotta get it. So
I can't even eat bananas and I want it.
I'm banana intolerant. And they sold like cold hotcakes. But he sold a bunch of sugary bananas. So what?
Yeah.
What's the big deal? His plan was to get a degree in political science. Work with those bananas on Capitol Hill, am I right?
I want to talk about the bananas in Cuba.
And
what's happening over
the Cuban
there.
banana crisis. Just like John F. Kennedy said, hooah! So in 1939, he graduated from the University of Washington with a degree in political science, which he churned into...
he whipped it into something.
He wanted to go into soft service to the military a little bit later, but we'll get into that. All it got him when he graduated was a job with the bigger dairy company that had bought his dad's dairy store. So he was right back working at the ice cream shop. And then World War II hit and dairy had to be turned into bullets. So he enlisted...
Political science was turned into bullets.
Politics out the window. He enlisted in the army, but he had bad vision. So he got stuck doing a non-violent administrative stuff. So
poor guy.
Can I at least use a red pen? Around this time, though, in 1942, Irvine's sister Shirley married a man with the most curious name, Burton Baskin.
BB?
BB-8. A lot of ice cream. Burton Baskin was born December 17, 1913, a good old American boy from Strader, Illinois. He was an athletic kid that people called Butch. Butch Baskin. Nice to meet you. I'm going to steal your girlfriend.
Thank you for coming to Butch Robbins.
Baskin and Butch's. He was a little Renaissance boy. He was also part of the school band, the theater group, and the business club. So he also got into his dad's business working at the Baskin family clothing store, Baskin's Clothing Store. In 1931, he went to the University of Illinois, but come time for that big bullet-making party across the seas, the perfectly visioned Baskin became a lieutenant in the Navy. But it turns out, just like his now brother-in-law Robbins, Baskin had a knack for making ice cream. While he was in the Navy, he traded a Jeep for an ice cream freezer, which I didn't know you could... That's not your property.
Dude, there's no engine in that.
The engine's in the freezer. Joke's on you.
I sold my helmet for an ice cream cone.
Since he was stationed in the South Pacific, he started experimenting with all the exotic fruits that were around.
Whoa,
and he was making different ice cream flavors that he would sell to the troops to make money, which I don't get. I don't get how the military works. Like, you can trade your military-issued Jeep for someone else's freezer, and then you can just sell things, and people have money? What do you need money for?
Why aren't you handing out to sold, like, what some dude has, like, buried in a
Let me go to the ATM. Yeah.
Buried in a foxhole freezing in France.
Tutti Frutti. I don't mean to bother you.
I know your best friend just got blown in half. Do you want a sorbet?
It turned out, though, that Baskin was better at the marketing and business aspect of the ice cream world. But Robbins, his brother-in-law, who was in some pencil-pushing desk job in undisclosed location America, Robbins was better at the creative end. So he started sending recipes to him during the war.
A lot of guys are like opening up a letter and they're like getting broken up with, or like, your baby's been born, and there's like pictures of girls, and this guy's like, how about we mix strawberry and banana?
Dear John, 4 scoops of peaches. Oh my God. I can't read it to me. Read it to me.
Read it to me.
So that's how the two spent the bloodiest conflict in world history, mailing recipes to each other and making ice cream in the heart of the Pacific Theater in the middle of Okinawa, the bloodiest battle.
What's your war scrapbook like, Grandpa?
What did you see during the war? Oh, the blueberries.
I want to read his entry in the things they've carried, because it's just a friggin' soft serve machine. This is all rude, by the way.
Well, he was making ice cream. He was fine. So after the war, Robbins decided he wanted to make a career out of ice cream. Robbins, which is the pencil pusher one.
Yes.
But he had an idea that the best way to sell ice cream wasn't inside of a dairy shop or a grocery store. Instead, he wanted to sell it out of a dedicated ice cream store.
Okay.
So that was kind of a new idea. He seemed to like...
What year was this?
Right after World War II.
Okay.
There were...
Hitler's still bleeding in a bunker.
Yeah,
like,
he's still...
I gotta open up the shop now.
He's still choking on his cyanide or whatever.
Allegedly.
That look-alike was choking on his son. So he seemed to like California, so he planned to open a shop in Northern California. But on a chance trip to LA, he happened to see a for rent sign at a storefront in Glendale at 1130 South Adams Street. So he cashed in the life insurance policy that his dad got him for his bar mitzvah. And with a whopping $6,000 in his pocket, he opened his very first ice cream store, Snowbird Ice Cream.
It's a cute name.
Which is so funny. Not only that his dad bought him a life insurance policy for his bar mitzvah, but that he then
turned
cashed
around.
it.
Dad, this is my life now.
The boy you knew is dead. Today I am a double man. The year was 1945. The date was December 1st, which was almost Pearl Harbor Day, and he had a whopping 21 flavors to choose from. But they didn't make their own ice cream, though. It was just bought by a supplier and sold to customers. But people didn't care, because after just 3 months, he was successful enough to open a second Snowbird on his dad's advice. He said, you should do this again. I know, I disowned you after you cashed in the life insurance, but
you're no longer my son, but you're a good businessman.
You're not my son. You are a man. That is my business partner. Don't hug me. Not much longer after that, he opened a third location, and this is when he started getting bored with just 21 flavors. Yeah. And his old creative streak came back out, and he started asking his supplier to make more interesting flavors like pistachio, coconut, pineapple, and butter pecan. Now I remember what the intro was. We made fun of butter pecan because it's an old people flavor. Around this time, his brother-in-law Baskin, the one making cream in the Pacific.
Yeah, he's trading ice cream cones for Purple Hearts.
Those are made of grape. He got a purple soft serve. So Baskin visited him in LA, and Baskin's post-war plan was to go back into haberdashery, but during this visit, Robbins convinced him to start selling ice cream instead. It's a fun way to say clothing.
It is. I close a haberdashery, mother, and I'm working in an apothecary now.
That's balderdash. I know this may sound like balderdash to you, mother, but I've decided to open a haberdashery. A what? The past was stupid. He already had experience with ice cream. So Robbins was telling him, you've done this before, and it's more fun to make ice cream than to work with clothes. And he said that if we both ran the stores together, we could be making $200 a week.
Naked. No clothes.
I know you're married to my sister, but I wish you had married me. Today, that would be over $2,000 a week they could be making. Good. That's pretty good. Baskin agreed, but Robbins' dad stepped in yet again with some sage advice. He said...
Use some sage.
Use some sage in every ice cream cone. He warned them not to combine their stores together at once. He said, run them separately, independently, figure out how you like to run a business on your own and not together so that you won't resent each other down the line for having to compromise what you had to do. So that's what they did. Even though they still shared an office in the back room of one of the shops, Baskin decided to call his store Burton's Ice Cream Shop, which opened in 1946 in Pasadena, and by 1948, they had 6 stores between the two of them. Then in 1949, they bought their own dairy in Burbank so that they wouldn't have to rely on a supplier anymore and could have control over the quality of the ice cream, and most importantly, the flavors being made. This allowed them to start franchising locations, and their first of these opened, the first franchise was again open in Glendale. By the end of that year, 1949, they had 43 locations all across Southern California. But as the years went on, they found that too many of the individual stores were making less money than they should have been, and that the two of them were becoming more and more isolated from the customers the bigger they got. So they decided to sell all their locations to those managers and make profits by selling the ice cream they were making at their dairy instead. So that's how they would make money off of of that, this made them the first people to franchise an ice cream shop.
Okay.
They wanted to ensure the quality throughout all their shops by giving the managers ownership stakes in them so that they'd be motivated to keep this going well. But they still wanted to have their own place, so they decided to finally combine the forces and open a store that was run by both of them. They wanted to name it after themselves, but whose name will go first? How would you ever decide? Flipped a coin.
Oh, yeah.
Came up, heads, Baskin heads. The first Baskin-Robbins 31 ice cream opened in 1953. From the start, the shops were all about fun. Yeah. They wanted to make it a fun place to be. Robbins always said, we sell fun, not ice cream. But we also have ice cream.
Yeah. I hope that you have fun buying the ice cream.
But you don't have to pay for the fun, but you do have to pay for the ice cream. Their original colors were pink and brown polka dots to give them like a circus clown sort of vibe. They would give kids free cones on their birthday from the start. They always offered their signature pink tasting spoons to anyone who wanted to taste a flavor because they believed everybody should be able to get a free sample of everything. We'll put that to the test. We'll see how big their heart really is, how hungry their heart really is for us. They kind of were intimating on their website that they were the first ice cream place to do free samples, but I don't know about that. That can't be true.
What about Thebes?
The first person to have free ice cream was Aladdin. We all knew that. So fun and cartoonishness became the brand. That's what it was all about. They were America's favorite neighborhood ice cream shop, and their slogan was, "We make people happy."
Okay. It could have probably went through a second draft, but that's fine.
But what really set them apart was their flavors. Mm-hmm. Now, to begin with, before them, there weren't too many places around that were a business that only sold ice cream. There weren't a lot of them. Yeah. It was usually part of a drugstore or something like that. And on top of that, places usually offer maybe 5 flavors. Baskin-Robbins, their whole thing was that they offered 31 flavors.
We got wacky flavors.
Yeah, we can do anything.
Wacky flavors. We got normal flavors.
We got vanilla, off vanilla, darker vanilla, aka chocolate. The reason it was...
We got everything in sepia tone because it's the 40s.
They might look the same, but they're all different, we assure you. They taste different. They taste like depression. The reason it was 31 flavors was because their idea was to have a different flavor for you to try every day of the month.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Never thought about that.
In reality, there were actually 34 flavors because they didn't count the classics, vanilla, strawberry, and chocolate, which their original chocolate was made out of a secret blend of 3 different cocos. Ooh. They didn't count that as part of the 31 because those 31 other flavors, they were special. Let's get into the flavors. This is the fun part. They call their ongoing catalog of flavors they've made the Flavor Library, which is a library I'd love to work at.
You're going to need to bring that back in 3 weeks.
Oh, you didn't lick it, did you?
This peppermint is late.
You broke the binding on my fudge. You've got your classics like pink bubblegum and Robin's personal favorite Jamocha almond fudge, which took a 6-foot-tall coffee pot to brew coffee to make that thing. You could stand in the coffee pot if you wanted to, and they did.
You taste something funny? You taste something manly?
It tastes like Founder. There was Banana Nut, which was the personal favorite of Howard Hughes, who became so obsessed with it that when they were about to discontinue it, he bought 100 gallons of it. And after a few months, he decided, I like French vanilla instead. And then he decided he liked a different flavor, a flavor with a little more tang, a flavor he could produce on his own. He likes to drink pee.
Got it. Because I was waiting for a joke about long fingernails, and you threw pee at me.
I was just doing what Howard Hughes taught me. Distract him with the nails, throw some pee on him.
The silence was so long, I'm like, oh wait, did Howard Hughes make Tang?
In a sense. He was certainly the first one to bottle it. Yeah. Then there was a flavor created by Robbins and his wife Irma, which became their top flavor somehow, pralines and cream, which might as well be butter pecan. It became so associated with them, this pralines and cream, that they had to sue Haagen-Dazs when they started making a praline and cream flavor. Robbins said, I cannot understand why people are so dumb. I'm talking about our competition. They can't even copy it right. But what people wouldn't dare copying were the names of their flavors. Yeah. They had Here Comes the Fudge, Holiday Paparazzi, Some Bunny Loves Me, which I guess is rabbit flavored.
Yeah.
They would come up with flavors to commemorate whatever was going on in the culture. When go-go dancing was popular, they had Coco a Go-Go.
That's cute.
When the Dodgers came to LA in 1958, they made Baseball Nut, which had raspberry swirl in the middle for the raspberries blown at umpires.
They put a Daniel level thought into that pun.
I'm telling you, this is my audition to work for the naming department at Baskin-Robbins. There was Gold Medal Ribbon for the 1980 Olympics. They also had Banana Bunt, Decathlon, First Down Fudge, and Olympican.
How do you feel about fun names for food?
If it's ice cream, I'll allow it. But if I want to order a burrito and it's like, you want the burro burrito, leave me alone. I'm not going to say that.
That's exactly what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Yeah, I'll have the Chester P. Worthington strawberry.
If it's obvious what the flavor is, if it's like peanut butter flavor and they're like, you want the PP peanut butter?
Yeah.
Or do you want, I'll have a scoop of peanut butter. Don't make me say it.
Don't make me say it. And they won't take your money out of your hand until you say it.
Say it.
We made it.
Say it.
There's one more thing that has to happen for the transaction to be complete.
Say the name.
Say the name, and the lights turn off, and the door locks. There's cops outside.
He's not saying it.
And then just a smoke grenade.
Take out the tranquilizers. Use the instant kill code. Speaking of instant kill code, for the release of Thunderball, the James Bond movie, there was 0031 Secret Bonded, which doesn't make that much sense, but the 0031 is kind of fun. Which, by the way, I didn't realize it was 0031 until last night, and I was like, why is it 0031? I guess it's numbers, and James Bond has a number. They had Jack Lemon Ice.
I'd order that.
Charlie Brownie, Last Mango in Paris.
Okay, no.
2001, A Spice Odyssey.
How do you feel about that personally?
I love it. And I'd be proud to order that. Don't try 2010, the year we made contact with our ungloved hands onto your ice cream. It's a long title, but it makes sense. There's Sesame Sweet, Miami Ice, White 2K Chocolate Overload.
What's that supposed to be?
Y2K.
Oh,
and then Computer Overload. I don't know.
Yeah.
One guy said to Baskin, whoever thinks of all these flavors must be plum nuts. Then they came up with the plum nuts flavor. When the Beatles came to America, a reporter asked him how they were going to commemorate the occasion, and he had no idea. And he said, beetle nut. And it was in stores 2 days later.
Oh my God.
You're just putting nuts in it.
Oh my God. I could see him going into the office like, you won't believe what I just said.
Everybody, I know it's Thanksgiving.
I know we've been making turkey ice cream for 3 years now, just trying to perfect it, but you got to put that on hold. I'm so sorry. I messed up.
What are you going to call it when the Beatles have broken up? Yoko.
Oh, nut.
Yoko nut. Mr. Robbins, John Lennon just got murdered. Mark David Cherry nut. John F. Kennedy's just been killed. Hua? The Hua man himself? By the mid-70s, they were coming up with 15 new flavors a year. For the bicentennial, they had Yankee Doodle Strudel, Minuteman Mint, and Valley Forge Fudge, not Fud. For Elmer Fudd, they had Valley Forge Fud. It was Valley Forge flavored. For the moon landing, they had Lunar Cheesecake. For the fall of the Soviet Union, they had Gorba chocolate.
Oh my God. It had a hammer and sickle sticking out of it.
Yeah, you have to eat it. It's a little dangerous, but you got to eat it. When Bill Clinton ran for president, they had Saxy Candidate. They also had Acceptance Peach, Geo Peanut Butter, and Candy Date.
Impeach him.
Unimpeachable. Chocolate Collusion. All these flavors had to be vetted and approved by a man named Les Moffat, which
his name is a problem.
He himself was created by Robbins. These flavors were created by anybody. Friends, family, employees, even customers would come in and pitch flavor ideas. And if your flavor made it into stores, you were given a golden ice cream scoop, which I would love to have that. But with only room for 31 flavors, not every flavor can last. The ones that have been retired either permanently or temporarily are put in deep freeze, they call it. And people...
Shot into space or what?
Yeah,
It sounds
like
so
Zod.
dramatic.
People have been known to picket the stores when their flavor gets taken away. Like, I want my Gorba chocolate. But even fun-loving Baskin-Robbins, they have their limits, and some flavors never make it out of the lab, such as ketchup, bagel and lox, Tarzan and the grapes, Sophia lemon, Nudie Fruity, Grape Britain, Can't Elope Tonight, Berry Goldwater, and I kid you not, Statutory Grape.
You're kidding.
I'm not joking.
They let Howard Stern name one. Jerry Lee Lewis is in town.
They currently have over 1,300 flavors in their back catalog, and people love it. In 1954,
100 for each day of the year. Go ahead.
In 1954, they took their ice cream to the LA County Fair to compete against their more national competitors. This was before they were really big. They won a gold medal and went on to win gold medals every single year after that. They've tried to intimate that they were the first to offer hand-packed quarts of ice cream, flavor ribboning, mousse textured ice cream, and also adding other desserts into ice cream. But I want non-soft serve proof of that before I'll go saying that on a podcast. I can't. Don't quote us. But as much as we wanted to keep this little chain to ourselves, all scoops have to leave the coop sometime. The first location outside California opened in Phoenix in 1959. By the mid-60s, they had over 400 stores in the United States. The first international location opened in 1971 in Toronto, and they quickly moved into Belgium, Japan, Saudi Arabia, Korea, even Australia. In 1973,
do we even know what to do with it?
Soft serve swirls the other direction in Australia. In 1973, there was a new location opening somewhere every other day. That's crazy. Yeah. That every other day of the year.
Gremlin?
They kept getting wet. They are now the largest ice cream chain in the world with over 5,800 locations in 52 countries, over 2,500 of those in the United States. All of these locations are franchises. They were sold in 1967 for $12 million to the somehow rulers of South America, the United Fruit Company, then to J. Lyons Company of London for $30 $37 million in 1973. They are now currently owned by Dunkin' Brands, and their headquarters is now in the far-flung suburb of Los Angeles, Canton, Massachusetts. Their other claims to fame include setting the world record for the largest ice cream scoop pyramid in the year 2000, made up of 3,100 scoops. In 2004, a franchise owner named Mitch Cohen set the record for the most ice cream prepared in 1 minute. He did 19 cones in 1 minute.
Whoa.
And they also have the title of the biggest cup of ice cream in 2005. It weighed 8,865 pounds of pure vanilla. They also paid for the exhibit on ice cream history at the Department of Agriculture. P. Diddy's first job was acting in a Baskin-Robbins commercial when he was 2 years old. Former employees include Julia Roberts, Randy Quaid, Rosie O'Donnell, Bobby Flay, and Barack Obama, who also took Michelle there on their first date.
Wow.
But what about those two rascally old men behind all of this?
Yeah.
Both of them embraced the ice cream lifestyle in the way most of us can only dream of. Burt Baskin lived in Studio City, so he was often seen at the Studio City Baskin-Robbins location getting ice cream, even though he had a full ice cream fountain built into their home. He was also on the original board for KCET, but he died very young on December 24th, 1967 at age 54 of a heart attack, a day before Christmas and a week after his birthday, which is kind of sad. He's buried at Home of Peace Memorial Park in East LA. Irvine Robbins, meanwhile, was even more into being the ice cream guy. In the early days, he and his wife had 3 kids, so before they became rich, they were mostly living off ice cream. His wife said, with a few vegetables, it's a complete meal. Well, ask the Department of Agriculture. When he got more money, he bought a new car with the license plate 31BR. He had a boat called the 32nd Flavor. That flavor is excessive wealth. Yeah. And they had a house in Encino at 17116 Adlon Road with a pool shaped like an ice cream cone.
Yeah.
You can see it on Google Maps. If you look at it, you see the ice cream cone. He retired from the company in 1978, but for the rest of his life, he was still eating 3 or 4 scoops of ice cream a day. He would put a scoop of banana ice cream on his cereal in the morning, which is probably why his son abandoned the ice cream world and became a health food advocate. He lived up until kind of recently. He died May 5th, 2008 in Rancho Mirage at age 90, but he seemed like a really sweet guy who genuinely loved making ice cream. And aside from novelty license plates, a boat named after ice cream, and an ice cream shaped pool, he was pretty down to earth. My favorite quote of him, he said, there I was, a little punk from California, flying into places like Chicago on a jet plane. A jet plane! The legacy he was most proud of, though, he was exposing people to new types of fun and making people a little more adventurous, even if it was just in the flavor of their ice cream choices. So that was his way of just kind of enjoy life a little bit.
Yeah, that's great.
That being said, I'm not a huge fan of Baskin-Robbins.
Why not?
It's expensive, and it also doesn't taste as good as other places, in my opinion.
It's sort of the McDonald's of ice cream, and it's just sort of like, it fills all the needs that ice cream do.
It checks the boxes of what ice cream is.
Yeah. You didn't bring up Ant-Man one time, and that's weird.
What does he have to do with this?
No, he just worked at Baskin-Robbins.
Oh, yeah, he's the other celebrity I forgot to mention. He had his first date with the Wasp. Okay. You should be lucky I know that much about Ant-Man.
I know, I'm
You're
surprised.
Welcome. So what's your next place? I'm still hungry. I want more ice cream.
The place I'm going to talk to next, I once took Daniel there, and I'm turning into the parking lot, and before I'm even parked, before I'm even in the parking space, the door's open, and he's running out of the car.
To get a banana split.
Because
I was so hungry, and I was so looking forward to being there.
The car wasn't even in the spot. It was still turning, and the door was open. You're like, I gotta go. I'll see you inside. Okay, you got your own, though. I'm not gonna order for you.
And you're paying. I'll say I'm putting it on your tab.
I'm gonna be talking about Fosselman's ice cream in Alhambra.
This is a good place. This is a good place.
This is an honest place. Fosselman's ice cream history goes back 100 years to 1919. The tale begins with Christian Fosselman, and it begins in Waverly, Iowa. The Fosselman Brewery, which had been established in 1883 by his father, Peter Fosselman, a brewmaster hailed from Germany. So his father
hailed or heiled.
It was 19...
I'll never forgive him.
It was 1883, so they weren't hiling yet. But between 1880 to 1890, there was a statewide ban on making and selling alcohol. It was like a prequel to Prohibition.
Wait a minute, in Germany or in
Iowa?
Oh, okay. Is this Germany? No, it's Iowa.
Welcome to Iowa. Show me your papers. So the Fosselman Brewery became the Waverly Bottling Works, and they started cooking up ginger ale, soda waters, root beer, lemon sours, nice drinks for nice people. His son Christian, so there's Peter, who's the father. Now his son Christian.
His boy Christian.
His son Christian was already getting a taste for the business, helping at his family's bottling plant. He had gone to a bottlers convention in Toronto, and there was he got a glimpse of an ice cream making machine. So he bought it and he brought it back to Iowa, where he began producing ice cream, which he would freeze using blocks of ice from the nearby Cedar River. So now the Waverly...
Ew. He would just cut blocks of ice out of the river?
And then use it to freeze the cream or the ice cream, whatever he's making.
Disgusting.
Whatever, you got to
Where'd you get the cream? What river was that from?
It's like negative 1901. Like there's like nothing happening. Like they have nothing.
Negative 1901.
Yeah, it's like so far in the past.
Which was also the temperature.
So now the Waverly Bottling Works could now sell dairy products and ice cream. But instead of selling to just other shops, Christian decided to open up his own shop. And that was the first Fosselman's ice cream there in Waverly in 1919, while still managing a family of 7 children, 4 boys and 3 girls. So
it's not from Los Angeles.
Well, we get popular in Los Angeles.
This is borderline.
Let me go over my notes. Where's Iowa?
Now, is that part of Los Angeles?
Changes in cold storage technology, that at the time being an icebox or freezer, meant that he didn't need to be linked to the Cedar River icebox anymore. Somewhere along these lines, an idea began to form about selling ice cream, but not in Iowa. Instead, he'd be taking his cold treat and selling it at a place where it was endlessly summer. So in 1924...
How come this river's not freezing?
So in 1924, the Fosselman family moved, along with their business, to Los Angeles, specifically Pasadena. And it seemed at first he was just making the dairy products and selling them to stores wholesale. But after about 10 years, in 1936, Christian and his son Bill opened up the first retail shop, the West Coast Fosselman's Ice Cream Parlor at 1515 Fair Oaks Avenue near East Howard Street. There's now a convalescent home there. The business became so lucrative that he was able to begin distributing products such as milk, butter, cream, and ice cream out of with a fleet of 20 trucks. The heir apparent, Bill Fosselman, got married to a woman named Mary and then almost immediately took off to serve for 4 years in the Navy in World War II.
That's the way you do it.
All ice cream men have to fight in the war.
Marry me, you'll never see me again. Bye.
When he came back to the States after Hitler was killed.
That look-alike.
I put that mustache on anybody, kind of look like Hitler. He continued putting energy into the family business with the help of his siblings, in particular Bob and Jim Fosselman. So over the next 10 years, Bobblehead Fosselman. Over the next 10 years, Fosselman's opened up 4 more stores: Alhambra on Main Street in 1941, Highland Park and Glendale in 1946, with a different son running their own branch. The Alhambra parlor also served as a production facility, so the ice cream and dairy items would be made there in the shop. For years, Fosselman's was the local hangout and watering hole, serving their communities well. And later in years, to deal with people seeking meals for lunch breaks, food items were added to Fosselman's menu, and that transformed it into a typical like old-fashioned ice cream and coffee shop. It was like the ideal Main Street USA ice cream parlor for many years in Southern California. Trouble comes in the 1970s when all of the stores' popularity began to wane. And in 1974, the Mothership store in South Pasadena was part of a structure that was set to be demolished and redeveloped, and there were no plans on reestablishing a Fosselman's there. So the original store was destroyed, and a plaque now stands there commemorating it.
What flavor is it?
I haven't licked it recently, but last time it tasted like everyone's hands. Is that a flavor? Like palm? The 2 other locations, Glendale and Highland Park, also closed their doors around the same time, and the wholesale business of Fosselman's dropped down to 10 customers. The only store left was the Alhambra location, and that also housed the production facility. So this was like the last stand of Fosselman's. It should also be said that in 1979, Fosselman's was used in a deleted scene in the horror movie Phantasm. Anyway, the family business was in serious trouble.
You're right. That should also be said.
It should also be said that David Klein rented a corner of the Alhambra store to first sell his candy creation, Jolly Belly brand Jolly Beans, named after folk hero. Did you know that Jolly Belly was named after Lead Belly? Or inspired?
Wait a minute. How much of this is true?
That's true. He didn't invent Jelly Beans.
But Jelly Belly started in a corner of Fosselman's, and it's named after Huddard Leadbelly?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
This is too much. I wasn't ready for this information.
I wasn't ready either. I'm like, okay. So anyways, Fosselman's is in serious trouble. It's now time for the 3rd generation. So first you had Christian who opened it, then his son Bill and his brothers Bob and Jim. So now it's Christian's grandsons. I can't really track down when they took over, but they took over, I want to say late 80s, early 90s. And it's time for John and Chris Fosselman, who are 21 and 23 years old, to start taking over their family business. They bought out their dad and uncles, and now they were the managers of Fosselman's Ice Cream and their one humble location in Alhambra. They saw how the business was run, and they knew changes had to be made to become more profitable and survive. They also needed to hold on to their granddad's business philosophy. Use the best locally sourced ingredients. Sell ice cream. Make it cold. Make sure people...
And sell it.
No matter what you do, just sell a vanilla too.
First comes the ice cream, then comes the power, and then comes the drippings on the floor.
It feels like one of those things is like, as my grandfather said, use the best locally sourced ingredients. Yeah. That's...
As my grandpa said, make it good. Make sure your food tastes good.
But they had to stick to...
And sell it for money.
Or you could trade cows for it. Granddad came from another time. They were trying to stick to their grandfather's sort of philosophy about this whole ice cream business, which is like use locally sourced ingredients, all natural stuff, no corn syrup, no preservatives, and make small small batches by hand with as much butterfat as possible.
See? No soft serve.
Get out of town. They don't know what they're talking
Get
about.
out of town, Grandpa.
Yeah.
Your grandpa's crazy.
There's more Fosters than Fosselmans out there. They worked on building up their wholesale business again and target upscale wholesale and food service industry stuff. Another incredible helpful thing they did was to go out and understand the changing demographic of their area, Alhambra. Alhambra has a very large Asian and Latino population, so Fosselman started crafting ice cream flavors based on those markets, whipping up and serving flavors such as Oaxacan chocolate, horchata,
Oaxaca Chaca,
dulce de leche, red bean lychee, green tea, taro root, and even a foray into Midori wasabi ice cream, in which they used a pound of wasabi.
When, Greg, I don't like this.
Stop talking now. I don't like other cultures. I know that's what this is about.
Again?
Did you say Asian and Latino?
Make America vanilla again, please.
The store was kept incredibly ornate, dare I say old-timey, and appears very authentically like an ice cream parlor of a bygone era, because the business opened there in 1941, but the building itself was from 1905, and it sits between an Acura dealership and a Wells Fargo.
Also from 1905.
Also from
Wells
1905.
Fargo, maybe, but definitely accurate.
Oh, also the Wells Fargo, it does all the business out of an old covered wagon. Also, when I say the store's old-timey, pay attention to this. Cash only. Shooting very ahead to the present day, Fosselman's now boasts more than 600 accounts in Southern California, as well as hawking soft serve and sorbets to Northern California.
Emphasis on hawking when you're talking about soft serve. Hawk.
Because I eat it so easily, because it's easy to eat. So they start selling stuff as far as Northern California, Nevada, Colorado, and Texas. There are a lot of places in town that also serve Fosselman's, and they come in all sizes and areas. Some of LA's most exclusive restaurants, hotels, private clubs, and other ice cream shops might even sell Fosselman's under their own brand names.
Yeah.
You can get Fosselman's served to you at restaurants like The Counter, Jones Coffee House, The Melt, Dog House serves a lot of Fosselman's ice cream.
That's what I was going to say. You see Fosselman's being sold in other places more than you actually know that Fosselman's is a place.
Exactly, yeah. And also a lot of places apparently will say they're serving you Fosselman's, but serving you like a cheaper, like a Baskin-Robbins or a Thrifty's.
Let's not get, come on. It might be Foster's Freeze.
But to me, seeing that they serve Fosselman's ice cream, it's like a stamp of like,
local pride.
Local pride, and also like, oh, this ice cream's going to be good. I can't have it, but I'm glad for you. You're eating history.
I hope you're happy.
Grandma. Chris and John are still running things and not just managing. They being the brothers and about 40 employees, they get to the shop as early as 7 a.m. and start the process of making between 2,000 to 2,500 gallons of ice cream every week. The ice cream is batch made and hand stirred just like it was 100 years ago when their grandfather started the business. It's heavy on buttercream and all the ingredients are natural with no fillers. Almost all of the milk and cream and other ingredients used
killer though.
Almost all of the milk and cream and other ingredients used in the ice cream are locally sourced from California-based companies. So the production room at Fosselman's is about 600 square feet, where all the ice cream is made in four.
It's tiny.
It's really small, right?
Yeah.
Like the store is small.
That's barely bigger than where I live.
You know, I have a wacky idea.
Move into Fosselman's. It's an upgrade.
I have a question. Did you serve in World War II, though?
According to my official documents, yes.
I have a Medal of Honor.
My name is Dick Whitley.
Anyways, they make the ice cream in 4 Emery Thompson batch freezers. Their storage vat, which is original from the 30s, holds 225 gallons of ice cream base, which is a rich and frothy concoction of only 4 ingredients: cream, milk, sugar, and a vegetable-based stabilizer, made for Fosselman's by Scott Brothers Dairy in Chino, which uses the same recipe that Christian Fosselman created in Iowa almost 100 years ago. In 2009, a writer for The Guardian said that the Fosselman's milkshake is the best in the world for his list on The Guardian. It's a well-loved and well-revered ice cream shop, and it's talked about like it's the pinnacle of the city. Like there's so much love in town for Fosselman's. My grandma lived in Alhambra, and I remember being out there for summers when my aunt and her would take us out. It was like one thing to go to Thrifty. So that's clearly just ice cream to shut us up while they were shopping. But if we were told that
really
we were
interesting that you say that something like that, it's so incorrect, but okay.
If we were told we were going to Fosselman's, which was a rare treat, that's a stop. We got dressed up, we put suits and ties and comb our hair.
Suits.
That's barely an exaggeration.
Polka dot suits.
Yeah. We're going to Ice Cream Church. Fosselman's is sacred ground in Los Angeles, and in recent news, there's a new Fosselman's location that's set open in Glendora. Fosselman's has a pretty wide range of flavors and products: ice cream cones, soft serves, sorbets, root beer floats, banana splits, shakes and malts, freezes, brownie sundaes, ice cream sandwiches, ice cream cakes, ice cream pies. They have flavors like horchata, taro, banana walnut, cappuccino, butter pecan, English toffee, French vanilla bean, pink champagne, pink grapefruit, as well as all the normal flavors.
You're being a little intolerant by saying normal flavors. How about the cis flavors? God created 3 flavors.
They have monthly specialty flavors. The special flavor of August is boysenberry kiwi strawberry sorbet. Fosselman's is at 1824 West Main Street in Alhambra. They are open late, Monday to Saturday 10 to 10, and Sunday 11:30 to 10. It's summer, people. Treat yourself to a Scuba Valley history.
That is beautiful. That was beautiful.
Well, I have a certain way of writing that people feel inspired by, and they're moved, and they come up to me in the streets, and they're saying, "You're John Cheever. You're Flannery O'Connor." And I said, "Yeah."
I'm surprised I'm O. Henry. It is a really good place. I mean, of all the sort of local, that is kind of the pinnacle. It is true that, because I'm never going to Alhambra.
Exactly.
But you can see other places selling Fosselman, but it's not quite the same. It always feels a little...
Yeah. The shop is really nice. So, being there in this old-timey shop, getting really good ice cream, cash only, having to go to Wells Fargo to take money out, and they charge you $30 extra. Is ice cream worth it?
And then going to Acura with all that cash.
I meant to put out $20 and pulled $20,000 out. Now I got to go buy a car because I have any cash.
I don't want to be caught walking around with all this cash in my pocket. I'll take an Acura. That way no one will rob me. It is a special place to go to. The one time I've gone there.
I think that it's one of those things. So we're going to be in Alhambra. We're going to go to the Palace Theater, which isn't there anymore. Then we're going to go watch a car, that really googie car wash. We might as well stop at Fosselman's.
Let's get to my next one.
Please.
Our final stop on this ice cream tour of Los Angeles.
I'm jumping with joy because I cannot wait for you to tell this story.
I scream. You scream.
You did this already.
We all scream.
Oh my God.
For Thrifties. It's time to talk about my personal favorite of this whole group. Fosselman's is great, but you can't beat Thrifties.
You really can't.
You can't. We'll get to why you can't exactly.
I'm going to write down cherished memories. I'm going to write down no one's ever at the ice cream booth, so I have to wait for a pharmacist to come serve me ice cream.
I only want someone who has a PhD to serve me my ice cream. Thrifties is the place that tastes as good as it costs. This story begins, much like my own personal story, with two Jewish brothers. I don't have a brother. I was my own brother. I was my own Jewish brother.
My parents were brothers.
Harry Boron was born on February 22nd, 1887 in New York City, and his brother Robert...
New York City!
His brother Robert decided to join the party 3 years later, August 23rd, 1890. There was really not a lot known about these guys until they moved to Los Angeles, and in the year 1919, they opened up a shop called Boron Bros.
It was right next to Fosselman.
Fosselman, Boron Brother. It was a wholesale drug warehouse at 412 South Broadway, downtown, that built up a customer base for a decade, just drugstore.
Sorry, where was it at?
412 South Broadway.
Okay.
Can you picture that?
Yeah.
What check cashing place is that now?
That's the one that's yellow. It's not on the corner, but it's pretty close to the corner. I took Mikey there one time.
They were going pretty good for a decade, build up your business. Then the Depression hit.
Gosh darn it. You got that Dust Bowl everywhere.
You got Dust Bowl in my ice cream?
There's poor people in my ice cream.
That gives me an idea.
My father climbed to the 15th scoop of a vanilla fudge and jumped off because he lost the family farm. Go ahead.
During this time, no comment. During this time, you're going to get in trouble for that one. During this time, a lot of the pharmaceutical sellers during the Depression that they had depended on for their drugstore business, they went out of business. Okay. So they decided they didn't want to have to rely on anyone anymore for their own success or failure. So in 1929, they became a drugstore themselves, and they called their new store Thrifty Cut Rate Drugstore. Before they were a warehouse, now it's a store.
Okay.
At first, they couldn't do any prescription drugs, and they also couldn't sell alcohol because of prohibition. So all they were selling was over-the-counter pills and tobacco and toiletries. What?
Okay. Over-the-counter ice cream. Go ahead.
Do you have prescription strawberry? But their prices were so much lower than everyone else's that they managed to thrive during the Depression. Yeah. Their slogan was save a nickel, save a dime, save a Thrifty every time. Whoa. Save $1 and much more at your Thrifty drugstore.
Yeah, it needs to be like 4 lines less, guys.
No, you had time back then. What else are you
No one was
do?
Doing anything in a Depression. Before you confess, make sure that you repeat the slogan for Thrifties.
I condemn you to 10 Thrifty slogans or whatever they say in church. Since they were self-reliant, they were able to make their prices so low that other stores got so upset about it, they made the city set a minimum price structure on items. That's how low they were.
How did they do that?
They had their own, they got high on their own supply. They could charge whatever they wanted because they had so little overhead. But they were still so successful that by 1935, they formed the Thrifty Drugstores Company to oversee their now 22 locations. Some of these now containing grills to buy lunch.
Ooh.
And also soda fountains, complete with iced cream.
That's that cold milk stuff.
That's that stuff that's not soft serve. But in these early,
can't be that good then.
But in these early days, they got their ice cream from different suppliers, so it wasn't the Thrifty ice cream we know now. But the Borons, ever obsessed with the best stuff at the lowest price, they wanted a way to make sure they could control the quality of their ice cream and, of course, the price as well. So in 1939, they bought the old plant for the Borden Ice Cream Company.
Kidding.
It's confusing.
They had this daughter who had an axe with her.
Lizzie Borden but took 3 licks, or whatever the stupid limerick is. So this place was at 915 Mansfield Avenue in Hollywood, and they turned it into the biggest automatic ice cream factory in Los Angeles.
Whoa.
It opened in 1940. So now they had complete control over the quality, consistency of their ice cream and also what flavors they could make, which they became known for. Not crazy like Baskin-Robbins, but also not standard like whatever you talked about. They had things like Rocky Road, fruitcake, grape pineapple, and they were very serious about quality control, which is why they put out ice cream that became well respected around town as being of high quality, but also being really cheap. So while people loved it, it still had a reputation of being the poor man's ice cream around town. They started selling their ice cream to other shops too, but a lot of places didn't want their customers knowing they were charging high prices for poor people ice cream. Like at upscale restaurants, also Farrell's for a little bit. Yeah. They had it delivered to them in a pickup truck with unmarked cartons, so nobody would know they were just selling them Thrifty ice cream. The number of hungry teenagers late at night they had to kill who saw their secret.
We got the City Hall gang on this.
They're calling Two Gun Davis. You got to cover this one up. They saw our shipment of Tutti Frutti.
We're gonna break some necks.
But meanwhile, the ice cream was winning gold medals at the California State and LA County Fair every year alongside Baskin-Robbins. They're winning all these gold medals. The way you could tell it was Thrifty ice cream, though, was if it came in one of its signature cylindrical scoops.
I love that. I love that scoop style.
They started doing that in the 50s, and they're very protective. Only officially licensed resellers get to use those scoopers.
Really?
Because you
can't buy one from.
It's very hard to buy one of those things. They want to protect their brand because you affiliate that shape. Like, oh, it's Thrifty. That's a Thrifty scoop. Why does it taste like garbage? Oh, no, it's a Throfty scoop. The rest of the store that was attached to this ice cream heaven, the drugstore is, they started becoming more and more dominant in the city. By 1942, they already had 58 locations, most of them in Los Angeles, and they opened their first self-service store on Broadway, which was very popular, which I was trying to wrap my head around what a self-service drugstore is.
Like a Menchie's?
No, not ice cream, just like a self-service drugstore, which is to us is just a drugstore.
Yeah, it's just like a...
But back then it was like, you come in, what do you want? I'll get it for you.
Yeah.
Like,
everything's in cabinets and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Me.
An apothecary.
Yeah.
Balderdash. Then post-war, they started moving into the suburbs that were popping up in the form of huge super drugstores. Yeah. During the Civil War, everyone needed their ice cream. During this whole civil rights era where drugstores were becoming a battleground for race relations, Thrifty actually had a very progressive code of rights for all of its employees.
Really?
So they were a good place.
Okay.
By 1964, they had 238 locations, and around this time they merged with Payless drugstores and became even bigger. Then in 1971, they bought Big Five and became even bigger. They became the biggest drugstore chain on the West Coast and the 4th biggest in the country, and all these locations had a place to buy Thrifty brand ice cream inside of them. So to keep up with this demand, they needed a bigger factory, which they found over 3 acres at 19146 Telstar Avenue in El Monte in 1976, which is still open today. I want a tour. I would kill for a tour of that factory. The plant was making around 30 flavors and was fully computerized, so it was extremely efficient and, as always, rigid in their quality control rules. So the ice cream always maintained high quality flavor. In 1987, there was the Great Summer of 87 Ice Cream Taste Test put on by the Fresno Bee, where they gave a blind taste test of the top ice cream bands to a group of strangers that they selected just based on their names. Some of the people they chose were Francis and Arthur Cohn, Glade Hershey, Haley Fudge, Gary Sunday, Christy Topping, Anthony Malt, and Pat Pistachio. These were real people that they found, and they gave them all these unmarked ice cream.
They sound like they killed people in Clue.
Yeah.
Or they could have. They're all suspects for sure.
Innocent until proven guilty. So Thrifty ice cream was put up to the test against places like Haagen-Dazs, Dreyer's, and Baskin-Robbins. So it was a blind taste test. You didn't know what you were having. Thrifty ice cream took the top prize with 612 points. The second place was Haagen-Dazs. All they had was 545 points. So they blew the competition away.
Great.
In 1988, they won 24 gold medals at the LA County Fair. There were a few flavors that didn't last very long, like avocado, apricot, mango, strawberry shortcake, which sounds pretty good. But there's one flavor we'll mention just briefly, but I could spend 6 years of podcasts just talking about this flavor alone. Chocolate malted crunch.
Whoa.
I love chocolate malted crunch. That might be my favorite ice cream.
If I needed to boil your entire personality into one phrase, that's 3 words.
It's chocolate malted human. Those malt balls that provide the titular crunch are made specifically and only for Thrifty ice
Really?
cream. One guy who works at the stores, he says that if they ever run out of a flavor, people just pick another one, except when they run out of chocolate malted crunch. He said, if we are out of that, kids fall on the ground in a seizure and their parents quickly start looking for another Rite Aid. I've been there.
You were that child. That's your mother's testimony.
Yeah, I have a very reliable source that says, but what's that I said? Rite Aid, I said? Where did Thrifty go?
Yeah.
Shut up. Follow this long list of dates. In 1986, they were bought by Pacific Enterprises, which also ran SoCal Gas. But not long after this, things started going downhill because newer, cheaper stores started popping up as competition to Thrifty drugstore, and pharmacies started appearing in grocery stores, which was even more convenient. But they still managed to ride their momentum into the 90s, where they had over 1,000 stores in 10 states, including 150 locations in Mexico. But the Rodney King riots hit Thrifty kind of hard when a couple of the locations were burned to the ground and 19 of them were looted, and their headquarters got surrounded and set on fire, but they managed to extinguish it. It's funny that they're a signature of being an LA brand because they got damaged in the Rodney King riots. 4 of them also got burned down during the Watts riots. So that financial hardship, like, it would cost a lot of money to rebuild these things that got damaged. And on top of that, they were already on a downward slope. So that forced them to be sold not long after the Rodney King riots to a company called Leonard Green and Partners. But in 1996, they were bought by Rite Aid. And the slow renaming process began until 2001. The final Thrifties was now a Rite Aid.
That hurt me.
Yeah, it was sad. Yeah. And Hughes is gone.
Price Club became...
Costco.
Pick and Save became...
Pick and Save.
That's what it was before.
That wasn't... But the Price Club did become Costco.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, Pick and Save.
Pick and Save became...
Big Lots? I don't know.
Yeah, Big Lots. That's what it is.
But they kept the ice cream station named Thrifty inside of the Rite Aids because the brand name was so strong.
Yeah.
There's over 500 Rite Aids still sell Thrifty ice cream all over California, but they also sell to other vendors. A company called Bon Suisse, based out of Poway, they buy 800,000 gallons of Thrifty ice cream a year and distribute it to restaurants, ice cream shops, hotels, grocery stores, prisons, all, which if that's what prison is, sign me up. All over, I did kill that lady in the alley. All over California, Nevada, Arizona, Mexico. This past July, they actually started selling it on the East Coast, but only in tub form. They don't get the scoops.
Okay.
The Boren brothers are long gone. By even the 90s, they were long gone.
You mean people who set up business in 1890 are dead now?
Those people who were born out of a Civil War celebration copulation.
They were cradled by Abraham Lincoln as babies. You mean they're dead now?
The people who Abraham Lincoln was their godfather to, they're gone.
Their last sight was a plane in the air.
They died of a heart attack when someone turned on a light bulb. Harry died in 1969. Robert died in 1987. They're both buried at Home of Peace in LA, which is apparently the only place ice cream people can be buried. But Thrifty ice cream has a lot of special memories for anyone who grew up in Southern California. Their recipes have stayed the same for over 50 years, and they're always made with California milk. It's $2 a scoop now, but even as late as 1975, it was only 5 cents for a scoop of ice cream. A guy who works in the factory says he can guess how old you are based on how much you think a scoop of ice cream costs. But it's the combination of that value and that quality that makes Thrifty so important. When you could easily pay $7 or $8 for a scoop at Salt and Straw or like Wanderlust or one of those places, you can always just go to Rite Aid for the same price. You could get like a 5 stacked scoop of ice cream, and it's good. It's the in and out effect where not only is it better than most places, it's way cheaper than most places. So that makes it even better. And you go to Rite Aid for ice cream. You're going into a pharmacy just to get ice cream.
And sometimes you'll be standing around meant to go get one thing, and then suddenly you happen to catch someone at the counter. You're like, I have
the person's there. I might as well do it.
I can't even eat ice cream, but I'll just give it to somebody because
Rainbow Sherbet, which is my second favorite flavor
really
of theirs. Everyone's still worried right now because they were sold to Albertsons last year, so it's still kind of up in the air of what exactly is going to happen to Thrifty ice cream. They say they'll keep it. We don't know yet, though, if they're going to move the factory out of LA, if they're going to change the recipe, which would be really horrible because it would be taking away the taste of summer for a whole for generations of Californians, and we'll all have to go back to pretending that we like Baskin-Robbins again, which would really be bad. Thrifty ice cream is like it's great.
Yeah.
It's so good.
You're right. It is the in and out of ice cream. It became so like, well, I guess we could just stop and get some of that because they're everywhere and they're cheap. And they're just good.
It's a special occasion. Put on your tuxedo and go to Farrell's ice cream or
Fosselman's.
Fossum. What's Farrell's?
I don't know. You said it before, and
Why do I keep saying Farrell's?
I have no idea.
Farrell's is, I think, another ice cream place.
Well, I can't eat that either. So I hope this has touched off hearts and stomachs across all of podcasting right now.
Oh, they're probably closed now, but I would love to get, and I also had 2 donuts before we started, but I would love to get some Thrifty ice cream right now.
That'd be really good to watch you eat that while I just like lick ice or whatever.
Yeah. Could I have a double scoop of prescription drugs from somebody else? But now let's get to our listener question for this month. This one comes from Mumbles_ on Instagram. They're moving to the Valley from Sydney.
Whoa, Australia. We didn't mean to burn Australia before. Oh, crap. We did that. We're sorry. We assume that you eat ice cream too.
We can't make fun of them because they're all criminals.
They're probably full of old big spiders.
Your ice cream, it's milked out of like a giant lizard. That's how it works in Australia. So their question is, what's your all-time favorite, and I know they're from Australia because they spelled it with a U, your all-time favorite thing about the San Fernando Valley?
If we're talking about a location or a...
Don't be snarky, Greg.
I'm not. Last night when you told me what it was, I said my favorite thing is that I'm not currently there.
I said, don't be snarky.
I'm just repeating my snarkiness from last night. I lived in the Valley briefly because my mom lives out here. So when I went to CSUN, I was living out here for like 10 years, which is how we hung out so much. And I really didn't like it because it felt like it was just one giant industrial area with a bunch of chain stores everywhere. And I was from LA where everything's a little bit different.
Oh, sorry. But
it's a little bit different.
That's only certain areas.
What I'm trying to get to is that over my time coming
You're having
back
a change
here,
of heart. Let me let this happen.
Yeah, let it happen. I can now recognize the smaller neighborhoods here. And now that Echo Park is gentrified, I like to go to areas that are multicultural, and not only are they multicultural, but every neighborhood is different than the next. And I know the difference between Encino and Chatsworth and Canoga Park, which is Little Compton. And we talked before how we like to just cruise around the valley at night during the summer and stuff. I have like a special love now for the valley because like you can cruise through so many different neighborhoods on one street, and it's such a beautiful experience. And I like suburbs now because all my areas in my neighborhood where I grew up are now being gentrified. So I like Downey, Santa Fe Springs, and Maywood, and
which are all places not in the valley.
No, I know that, but what I'm saying is like places that aren't gentrified that are like the way they were 50, 60 years ago, and the valley is still the way it was probably 50, 60 years ago.
I mean, it is sort of like Los Angeles as a whole. It's kind of hard to crack, but once you crack it, like, ooh, there's a lot of meat in here. There's a lot of good stuff in here. Cruising around, also it's less crowded. Like if you want to cruise around Koreatown, for example, like
you will be cruising because you can't park.
You didn't plan on cruising, but you are
now cruising.
You hit it on the head with the multiculturalism, because my thing in particular, which I feel like I'm always just saying, I love the food. I love the food, but there's so like you can literally have food from every single country inside the valley, and it's like a block away from each other. There's so many different areas that you can just pass by, and there's like, oh, there's this strip mall that there's a Ugandan place, there's a Sri Lankan place, there's an Indian place, there's a Korean place. I want all of them.
You can't go to LA and like they closed all the dive bars and now they're hipster bars, but like there's 4 of my favorite bars are now, I won't say what they are. It's attached to Santa Susana, which is Manson lore. It's attached to
there's definitely a lot of history.
It's attached to Laurel Canyon and Topanga Canyon, which is its own types of history. Like we said before when we did the episode about oddities inside of the valley, it was the backyard of everybody. Like film industry people, the stars lived in Hollywood, and the people who worked in the industry as like gaffers and cameramen, they all lived in the valley. So like
the frustrated B-listers.
Exactly. So I have this like, this is where kids rode bikes and loved monster movies, and like I have a thing like Ada will ask me if I can live in one time in history, where would I live? And my example is I want to be a little kid with Lone Ranger pajamas and a Lone Ranger mask, watching Lone Ranger TV, the Lone Ranger show, eating Lone Ranger cereal. Like I want that, and like in my head, that's the valley in the 60s.
Other parts of the city are kind of losing their charm. For now, at least, the valley is maintaining because it is cheaper. So the minority communities, not everybody, but a lot of people can still afford to live there, which is great because then you're getting that culture that's being pushed out and squeezed out of of Echo Park.
Exactly.
Things like that.
Like I like just living next to families now. I just live next to young professionals. There's like a people next to me who just have a cactus business and they just like live there, and it's so irritating because hip neighborhoods are a disease on the city. They're meant for the west side.
But even the hip quote unquote neighborhoods in the valley, which like
It's
Studio
all down
City.
Ventura.
Yeah, it's all, but it's not that hip. Like
No.
the valley.
It's rich but not hip.
It's rich. You're not gonna. I mean, I guess you could spend a fortune on a dinner in Studio City, but it's not gonna be like there's 4 stools here.
Yeah, exactly.
And you have to have a degree in the culinary arts to eat here, or else you're not going to be allowed.
We only serve 4 types of beer.
Yeah.
But one time Quentin Tarantino came in, so now everybody comes here.
As much as we were just saying it's a hard nut to crack that's somehow filled with meat, I don't get it. It's almost a more accessible version of Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And I like it.
I've been trying to figure out what's the thing that links Los Angeles together because it's so wide. For a while, I thought, well, there isn't anything. We're just like, LA County was a fake grid drawn over everything. And then I'm starting to think that maybe it might be the streets, the actual roads that get us between neighborhoods. And the valley is great because it's basically a grid system.
Yeah.
It's very uninteresting the way it's mapped out. But like
until you get to Burbank.
Exactly. Well, that's the thing. You can take Sherman Way to when it's a hill hitting Santa Susana and drive it all the way down.
Yeah, that is appealing.
Yeah.
And it is, like if you're in Porter Ranch or Granada Hills and you're like, all right, I gotta get to work. I gotta go down Reseda, and you just see the other end of the valley. And it's like, where?
Because you're
why
in
would
valley,
I get to the light at the end of the tunnel?
You're on the rim, and I gotta drive to the other rim, and you can see it.
Yeah.
People would get mad at me when I would be at my mom's house. I'm like, I'm gonna drive to Daniel's, and like, where does he live? I'm like, down the street, and they're like, oh, that's 20 minutes away. I'm like, yeah, but it's down the street. I can see where he lives from where I'm at, and it's 20 minutes away. It's 2 streets, so it's just down the street. That's the valley.
Gotta love it.
No, you don't.
Don't have another change of heart. If you have a listener question, I forgot to mention this at the beginning. Remember to send us what we were asking for at the beginning.
Yeah.
If you have another question, send it to us on our email, la.meekly@gmail.com, Instagram, la_meekly, Twitter @lameekly, Facebook. Also, leave us a review on iTunes.
Oh, yeah, we love that kind of stuff.
Oh, I love that. It's like a triple scoop.
I love that.
Leave me a triple scoop. Give me a 5-star scoop on iTunes. If you have an iPhone, open the podcast app, look us up, leave us some stars, some words if you want. That's very nice. It helps us get noticed by more people so that we can keep this going for you.
Yep.
Support us on Patreon.
Mm-hmm. We send out postcards every month to people who give us handwritten, sometimes personalized if I know you well enough on social media.
I personalize everything.
You do, don't you?
Yeah.
You
I stalk everybody. We know your address. Don't think I'm not. Don't think I'm parked outside with my listening device.
You can follow me, myself, Grego Gonzo at Instagram, Grego_Gonzo on Twitter. I'm doing a couple stand-up shows in August, so you can check me out on those things. I'd greatly appreciate you. Come say hi to me. Daniel is on Twitter at
DM Zaffron.
At him and bully him into tweeting more because he's really funny.
Say something funny already. Have you ever noticed when sprinklers over the word limit? Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're going to be putting the stuff we talked about at the beginning from that live show, the video up there, and you can also listen to episodes on that if that's easier for you.
Yeah, because iTunes is trash, so YouTube is a little bit better.
Interesting. Any last thoughts on ice cream?
I can't have it.
Wait, are you lactose intolerant? He's so proud of that.
This research was miserable, and I want you to know how sad I was reading.
For me, this was great. I love this episode. Like all the other food episodes we've done, I've been like, even though I don't like Baskin-Robbins, I gotta go to Baskin-Robbins.
I feel like if we ever split, you would do a food podcast and I would do a crime podcast.
Yeah.
Easily.
Why not combine them?
Welcome to LA Meekly.
Welcome to Cannibal Podcast. I hope y'all have a good
time.
August. Y'all come back now.
See you at Gower Gold.
Try to stay cool this August. It's gonna be miserable. It's gonna be terrible.
Everyone's gonna be real tired, so be really nice to people because people aren't gonna be able to go to bed till 5 in the morning and then they have to get up at 7. So be nice to everybody because it's gonna get really ugly out there. We love you.
Y'all come back because we love y'all.
I can't do this without you.
So that's been yet another delicious episode of LA Meekly.
Maybe the greatest episode of LA Meekly ever.
Serving soldiers scoops since 2014. Giddy up, partners.
Yeehaw to you all. Which I think we use in an intro.